Hey guys, it's Redneck West from the Nerdy Old Men podcast, and today, break out your dice, roll them up, hope they're enough to hit. We're talking D&D editions, and with me always, my buddy, the old bald man himself, Chad.
That's right, buddy. The greatest game that's ever been invented.
Absolutely.
And it truly is. And if you don't think so, you're freaking wrong, and go ahead
You're
and
wrong,
hang
but
up,
anyways.
But no. We were going to talk about a bunch of different D&D editions, so it's a little bit of a more technical episode. We're going to have a lot of fun, and a guy that knows D&D editions because he's played a whole ton of them, and we love to have him back, is Perfect Pat. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, guys. 2 weeks in a row, man.
I know, this is awesome, Pat.
We are
Thanks for doing
blessed.
this.
We have been blessed. Perfect Pat, 2 weeks in a row. We've got him from his busy schedule and drug him in here, and we're going to have a good time. So
I don't think there was a lot of dragging to be done when, dragon.
Oh,
Talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
I see what you did there.
A
Wes is
little
on
D&D
fire
always gets
today.
Patrick fired up.
We'll pretend you meant to do that, but I don't think you
Oh. As far as you know.
did. Hey, Pat, let's start with you, man. What was the first edition that you played?
the first edition I owned was the basic red box that moved on to Expert, which was the blue box. But the first I played was first edition.
Yeah, all right.
Like I had
You
the
actually played original D&D, or
I had the boxes. I never actually played original D&D.
Okay.
And I don't mean the like
You're not
really
talking the
old
white box.
No. I almost bought one of those at Fanboy a couple of years ago.
Wow.
I bet it
That
was higher than $10.
McKay's
wasn't it?
had.
Really? McKay, you actually saw one at the used bookstore?
No, McKay's had a booth set up at Fanboy.
Oh.
And I guess it was a lot of premium stuff that came in, like graded comics
Oh, okay, all right.
and stuff. Like, I've never seen this in store. It might be in a display case somewhere, which is what they do with their graded comics. But
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I like to go in there and try to find things. So you actually played first edition. That's
I played first
tremendously
edition.
tremendously different than what we have now.
Well, it's not as different from 5th edition as 3rd and 4th were from 1st edition.
Okay. All right.
5th edition is more of a callback to original D&D. My understanding is the rules a lot more simple, easier to play, faster to play.
And first, in fact, somebody just gave me a 1st edition DM screen.
Oh,
joke.
nice.
That's
And-
cool.
And it's before Thaco. The evil that most people see in Thaco.
I think it
Each
was brilliant.
and each character had a to hit matrix,
Okay.
which was basically Thaco by a different name.
Well, Gygax really loved charts and numbers and tables. And
Boy, he did.
things.
And the 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide, to me, is still the best book you can own to design adventures. It's got a table for everything.
Yeah.
It's got the random harlot encounter table.
Well, that is one for everything. Yeah, you talking about those old rules and the Thaco and stuff. In preparation for the show, I went and dug out an old Trapper Keeper, and for you kids, look it up if you don't know what it is. Me and Pat were talking earlier.
I
that
still
some people-
use
yeah.
mine for,
Oh, I
for
know
the
you
games
do.
that I run.
Yeah,
What
and
are you
I,
talking
and
about?
I found it and found my old character sheets and stuff. And I was digging through it, and of course, because of the Thaco rules, I had a calculator in there. And because they didn't have a cell phone
Who
with a
don't?
calculator at the time, but you had to have that kind of stuff. Pat, you're talking about finding old stuff, and Wes, I hadn't showed it to you yet. I actually found an old dungeon module B2, The Keep on the Borderlands by Gary Gygax.
Oh,
That in my book, I don't know where I got it. Probably McKay years ago. Introductory module for characters levels 1 through 3. Got the TSR logo in the bottom left hand corner. It's 1980. I think it says here on it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the B series was 1st edition Greyhawk. Forgotten Realms has really become the prominent setting,
Yes.
but in 1st edition it was Greyhawk.
Yes.
And I don't have a lot of knowledge about Greyhawk. I really started when we started playing back in high school. It was second edition for me, and then we've talked on the
Well,
show
you started
before.
in Dark Sun though, didn't you?
Well, that's true, but it was second edition, yeah. And I did start in Dark Sun at Boy Scout camp when I was working there. Prior to that, I remember on some scout trips with some kids that were locally or likely minded as me, and we just made up like we were playing D&D because I'd always wanted to, and I didn't know anybody that actually played, and nobody had books or anything, so we just kind of told the story and pretended. And then that evolved into me getting a chance to play at Boy Scout camp, playing Dark Sun, which was a very weird campaign setting. And then when we came home and at football practice, we all started talking about, holy crap, we can play D&D. And then we started in Jason's Quasi Forgotten Realms second edition. So.
Yeah, Jason.
Probably using my books.
It could be.
I
Yeah,
cannot
probably so.
confirm or deny that we stopped by your grandmother's house and acquired a Dungeon Master's Guide and a PHB and a Monster Manual.
Do you know where I bought my first edition book at?
No.
Toys R Us.
Really?
A moment of science for Toys
Yes.
R Us.
We always have to do the moment of silence. Okay, go on.
They used to sell D&D, and it was during the Christmas season because that's about the only time I went to Toys R Us as a kid. And I'd already had the boxed sets. Like I said, the red box, the blue box. But they had the Oriental, well, they had other books, but the Oriental Adventures book really just called out to me.
I'd forgotten about that one.
That's the first edition book I owned, and it was useless as far as playing the game because I didn't have the player's handbook
Right.
or the
okay.
Dungeon Master's Guide. But man, I read the heck out of that book.
That-
And I was lucky enough that my family did not buy into the Satanic Panic.
Right, because that was right when that was occurring.
That was
wasn't it?
during that era. That was the Tom Hanks Mazes and Monsters
What was
era.
that? That was early 80s, like 83, 84.
That was probably 84-ish. So and I at 84 I was 11 at the time.
Right. But that's neat that they, and that's interesting. You said that they sold it at Toys R Us. My first memories of Toys R Us and on is I never saw Dungeons and Dragons books and stuff there. And funny now, you can find that stuff at Target.
Right.
In different places, which is kind of neat. It's kind of come back full circle and become interesting, or I guess more mainstream again. Because when I bought my first second edition handbook, where the guy's on the horse busting through.
Absolutely.
Okay. When I bought that one, I think I bought it probably at Game Board.
Game Board, yes, sir.
Which was an old store in a mall here in Knoxville, and I went in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I went at Easttown and bought it there and some dice, and off we went, and it's never been the same again. And,
I think
I'm
all of
thankful
us
for
got
it.
our second edition book at there.
It was actually a chain.
I knew there were 3 locally at the time. There was one at Easttown Mall in Knoxville, Westtown Mall in Knoxville, and then the Oak Ridge Mall.
I know for sure there was one in Maryville, there was one in Johnson City.
I missed that store. That was a good store. We got some good stores locally, but
I do
that
too,
one was
and-
kind of neat.
It became Nord's Games.
Oh, did it? Okay.
And the old sign for Nord's Game is in the back room at Sci-Fi City.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'll have to ask to go look at that sometime. But so me and Wes started in the second edition, and you started in first. What?
Right.
How do you think the game has evolved since back then, Pat?
Well, besides the mainstream stuff, which is what happens when Hasbro buys you.
Kill all over one.
To me, one of the big changes when you got to first and second are almost the same edition.
Okay.
First is back compatible with second edition because in first edition you had the Wilderness and Dungeoneer Survival Guide, which
Yes.
introduced proficiencies,
Okay.
which became a big thing in second. And then when second we added Thaco, which streamlined the hit matrices, kinda. But other than that, they weren't that different.
Well, AD&D or second edition is it's more commonly known, it was really set up for tournament play. Because, like going back to chainmail,
Which
games
was
like that.
which was Gary Gygax and
That's his first.
his partner's first foray into this.
Yeah,
right?
and it was a medieval combat game, but you were running armies. You were controlling armies, and it only went to like third level, and there was like only 3 classes. You had like the fighting man, I think the magic user, and then the cleric, and it was you advanced by doing things. It wasn't like the experience point system that we have now.
Right.
And you were basically trying to command large armies, and because Gygax was really into battle reenactments and the miniatures.
And in second edition, they just came out with battle system to do the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. When you talk about miniatures, what was interesting is it appears in earlier days miniatures were very important.
Oh yes.
And then when we started playing, like we'd have miniatures, but we just kind of set them in front of our where we were
Yeah, we
playing,
didn't
and we
really,
never really used them. But as things
set up tactics or
progressed,
anything with them.
right, as things progressed, they become like more important again. Now, I don't know if that was like the D&D folks at the time, Wizards of the Coast, I guess, was who was owning them when the D&D miniatures, the pre-painted miniatures first started coming on the line, and they created that miniatures game. So I don't know if it was a marketing thing to start trying to push this back into the game, but I like it because as we've grown older, using tactics makes the game more challenging.
I think
and
third
I
edition was
like
what really
that.
kind of brought that in. Was
It
the
is,
group
and that's
base.
what Chad said. It ran concurrent with the D&D minis.
Right.
And back when I actually owned the game store, we would have a monthly D&D minis tournament, and it got huge participation.
And that's cool. Again, going back to digging through some of this old stuff that I hadn't looked at in a while, I found a poster, the D&D miniatures advertisement poster. It's got a displacer beast and some people fighting it on the front, and then you flip it over to the back, and it has like a checklist of the very first edition of the actual D&D miniatures game, which is pretty darn cool.
Well, I remember you having the giant Twizzler bucket with all your doubles.
I did have a Twizzler bucket full of doubles, and then I had these little plastic trays that I had alphabetized because I'm a freaking nerd, and and I had to where I could pull the ones out for us to play with or whatever. But then I had the big pre-painted dragons too. I ended up selling all that stuff when we quit playing for a little while. And I really wish I hadn't sold those big dragons because those were cool, man. Those were
And they go for a lot of money now.
yeah, I know. Don't tell me.
He wasn't happy when I told him about that. He goes,
Yeah,
don't tell me.
Don't. I wish I'd have just at least kept the red because that gargantuan red.
I
that-
loved Big Red.
That
We
was
actually had a
great
tournament to
miniature.
win one of those.
Really? See, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm still waiting for him to come out with the Gargantuan Silver. Just so Wizards of the Coast, if you're listening, which I know you are.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, we want a giant a silver.
One thing about those pre-painted ones, and I think you can still buy some pre-painted miniatures. that
Well,
are
it's
available.
come back.
But they're not.
Yeah, it
I don't
really
know, they're
has.
not quite the same. I mean, I haven't seen very many of the large scale dragons that you can buy pre-painted.
There's not, and they're very module specific now.
Right.
Yes.
And there's no separate game that I know of.
No, there's not. And I have purchased some of those module-specific pre-painted blind boxes before when we were, because we're doing the Tomb of Annihilation. We're playing tonight, and we're getting close to the end. And Pat, I know you just recently started it.
No, we actually start not this coming Wednesday, but the next.
Okay. Well, I had purchased a bunch of those, and we've used them. Wes knows, and they're pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a neat thing because you can buy those for the module that you got, and you can get some specific characters, NPCs, and then specific villains from the module, and play them the way that they're supposed to look, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I do miss those old D&D miniature blind
The
boxes.
Ral
Yeah.
Partha miniatures.
Oh no, there we go.
They were made of pewter.
Yes, I've got one sitting over here in one of my curio cabinets, which was my childhood forever character Lagar the wizard, and he's sitting over there, and he's a Ralpartha. He's painted. You can look at the bottom of him, and it says Ralpartha, which was so cool. Difference though between the metal and the plastic ones, you know.
Right. And back to the editions, to me, the real difference between first and second edition. First was very module heavy.
Okay.
You could go back and, man, like you mentioned, you found B1. There was a bunch of series of modules. When second came around, it became very setting heavy.
Okay.
Now, in
Well,
first,
that was-
go ahead,
sorry.
Wes.
Well, I was going to say, what you're talking about, like in the first ones, where you're in command of the army, and in second edition, it became more going from an expendable soldier or a commander to becoming an adventurer.
Right.
And the second edition became more about the adventuring party, where you had a paladin and a ranger and a cleric and a wizard and a thief. And you're not commanding these vast armies. It's more of a dungeon crawl, which I think is what most people think of when you start talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
And you get, again, towards the end of first edition, you got the Dragonlance hardcover.
Right.
And a lot of people I know, Dragonlance was their gateway drug.
Okay. Yes.
A lot of books.
A lot of people I play with started playing after reading the Dragonlance Chronicles.
Hey, whatever it takes to get you hooked, man. Come on.
And there was a Greyhawk hardcover, and at the very end, there was a Forgotten Realms boxed set. But then you get to second. You have the three we just mentioned.
Yes.
Ravenloft,
Yeah.
Planescape,
Yes.
Spelljammer, Dark Sun, Al-Qadim, which is technically part of the Forgotten Realms.
Right. You know, again, that was the big. You're right. Big setting. I guess I had never thought about it that way. It was big setting driven, and that was a way to make the game different. Because again, I really started playing in Dark Sun, which is the whole magic in Dark Sun is entirely different than magic everywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Because the magic users, the wizards in Dark Sun, if I recall correctly, they draw their power from different things. So if you're a defiler, which my guy was, because I always like bad guys, when he casts spells, things die. You know, he took life from plants and things like that, and versus I forgot what the other one was, but
Preserver.
Preserver, right? And there, if you reached a certain level as a defiler, you could turn into a dragon.
I have that hardback.
Which is really a neat concept, and I'm glad that didn't make its way across all of D&D, because the diversity of it I think is cool.
As a preserver in the hardback Dragon Kings, there's actually an evolved species you become too.
Yeah,
I
it
can't
looks like a
remember what
giant
that is.
kite.
And an Evangeon was the
Yeah,
name of it.
Evangeon. That's what.
'Cause
And
it's always better to be the bad guy.
and Dark Sun was unique in all settings, as it really focused on psionics.
That's
The
that's
Psionics,
true.
as Terrence would say.
Psionics.
Psionics, ectoplasmic form. I can do this all day because I just regenerate my points. It's like, how does this even work, man? I don't know.
But
Okay, we just kind of went with it.
well, yeah, but Dark Sun was really unique, and I like that it was. Yeah, it was. You know what? We've kind of mentioned this kind of thing before. We were talking like last week about 80s films and how some of that stuff just wouldn't translate to today's sensitive world. I don't know that Dark Sun, the original Dark Sun, would translate very well.
Well, I'm
way.
curious because we're rumored to get a Dark Sun 5th edition this year.
Because I mean, not to be punny, but that was a dark freaking world.
Oh, it was.
Yes, it was.
Cannibal halflings.
Yes.
One of my favorite classes.
Well, slavery, freaking
Gladiators.
all kinds of
Well, you were
horribly
in the
dark
desert.
stuff.
I mean, it was a
Yeah.
very desolate area.
Well, and it was a very, if you keep punishing your world, it becomes a wasteland setting.
Right.
Yes.
So there was some morality to it. But yeah, that sucker was dark.
Let me
it
hit you
is
with my obsidian sword because we
Right.
don't have metal.
right. And it was it was a setting that I started in, but it wasn't one of my favorites. Forgotten Realms obviously was my favorite, and I think that's because that's what we sort of played in forever. But I'm telling you, man, I loved Ravenloft.
Ravenloft is great,
I just
and
really liked it.
it's another setting that you had the different mechanic where if you do bad things, you're going to get bad features.
Right, and I played a very short time in it back, I guess in the mid '90s, and we really enjoyed it. Or I really enjoyed it. Now, when we finish Tomb of Annihilation, another member of our party, Scott, is going to run a Ravenloft
Curse of
campaign.
Strahd.
Yeah, Curse of Strahd for us. So I'm personally pretty excited about that. I know Wes is too. So
Well,
I think that'll be
I'm
fun.
getting way out of my comfort zone.
You play a thief in Tomb right now. That's like
Oh,
180 from your paladin.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just wish people would like mayonnaise more.
You and that freaking man. God, man. That's a talk for another day. That's the most annoying.
We'll
Jeez.
come back around to that one day.
Wes,
but, yeah.
Wes is every DM versus player meme that's on the internet. That's Wes.
And what's funny is it's only with the halfling thief.
Oh, no. You play it wonderfully. But to get
Well, I
back
can't
on.
help it. He's crazy. I mean,
Yeah, he's nuts. But to get back on path, though, but we're excited about the Ravenloft thing, man. And I just think that's just a cool setting. Or it was back then, and I think
It still
it's
is.
very
I've
similar
actually
now.
I've played Curse of Strahd,
Okay.
and
The new one?
the new one,
Okay.
because I had a group a few years ago that I just played in,
Right.
and it was 5th edition,
Okay.
and we played Out of the Abyss and Curse of Strahd.
Okay, yes. Yeah, those two campaign settings. I like Ravenloft. I'm really excited about that because, I mean, it's like, it's like constant Halloween time. I just think that is cool.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. Now, the other second edition campaign, I don't think I ever played in any of those that you were mentioning other than that. And I mean, I know Wes played in the same ones I did, but we moved from that to what, 2 point, was there a 2.5?
There was what was called a 2.5.
Yeah.
There was 3 books player's option and 1 book DM's option.
Okay.
And it was different ways to create characters, and the DM's option was to take your campaign to 30th level.
Right.
Because outside of Dark Sun, there was nothing.
Well, wasn't
basically-
there like in one of the, I can't remember if it was the basic or if it was the BX or there was the ECBIX or something.
BECMI.
Yeah, thank you. I could not remember how it went. But I think you could go to like 36th level.
You went to 36th level, and that I was for after 36. That's when you became an immortal.
Yes, because
Wow.
they brought out like a completely different set of rules and characters for like the immortals and the different books.
But isn't it similar to like the epic level stuff in
Well-
3.5?
Let's shift to 3rd edition,
Yeah.
since we're talking about editions.
Because I think this is Wes's favorite, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's most people's favorite that I've ever talked to. I still run 2nd, but when 3rd edition came out, we were still playing. We were just like, why would we buy new books?
Well, that was kind of our thinking on a lot of stuff.
Yep.
But now 3rd edition, it got streamlined.
Well, it simplified a lot of rules.
Everybody
people.
went off the same experience table.
Thaco was gone.
Thaco disappeared.
Thank goodness.
And they introduced the concept of prestige classes.
Right. And
Well, they
and
also brought
feats.
in like the feats and,
Yes.
and the
Feats.
abilities became really, I think, my favorite part of it.
you could I think you could customize your character more
Yes.
in 3 than in prior editions.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You could. Feats were a big thing, and that's something that carried over into every succeeding edition.
Right.
But
But
it basically streamlined settings just down to Forgotten Realms, but we got a really neat setting later on. They had to create a new setting contest, and we got Eberron.
Right, and I never played an Eberron, but it seems to be popular.
It's a really different concept. It's steampunkish,
Right.
but I've read some of the novels, which is one of the things I really miss. But it was really good.
Well, second edition had a lot of lore because of the novels. I think third edition did as well. Like they developed characters like Elminster and Mistra.
Is Elminster identifying as a woman today? Is that what it is?
If the redneck could enunciate his syllables.
Syllables.
Toy boat.
Toy boat. Toy boat. But we converted our second edition guys over to 3.5.
I actually found the conversion booklet inside.
I was about to say, there was a conversion book.
Yeah.
Yes, I have it.
I'm sitting here holding Lagar's 3.5 freaking character sheet, and you talking about a broken character.
Oh, third edition was power gaming personified.
This is
This
is a 25th level character. This is 20 levels as a wizard and 5 as an archmage.
That's another thing too. They did is they streamlined. There was in second edition in first you had multi-class and dual class. From 3 on, anybody could do it.
Right.
Whereas demi-humans could multi-class, which you're playing multiple classes at once, or humans could dual class where you changed, but you had a bunch of restrictions.
Like we've talked before, Jason trying to run adventures for these characters must have been just extremely difficult.
Gods.
This guy, Lagar was a wizard, and according to this sheet, he's got 200 hit points as a freaking wizard.
There's another thing that
It's
changed.
crazy.
In first and second edition, you stopped rolling hit points at 9th level.
Right.
3 on, you roll for every level.
Yep. Yeah. I'm just again. I don't have a character in 5th edition at all right now. I'm developing one for Scott's deal, but I'm looking at this guy here, and my character's got 34 armor class.
Well,
I'm like, wow.
Let's talk about armor class for a minute.
All right, yeah.
And editions. First and second edition. You started out at 10. The best armor class you could get was -10.
Right.
Which really made some fun Thaco rolls.
Yeah, and I would say it was.
No one told me there'd be math.
Yeah. Whereas
That's where the calculator came involved, Chad.
whereas 3, you just increased it. Like you said, you could have high 30 armor classes, which would be terrible in first and second edition.
Oh yeah,
Right, but they changed the rules. I know. Version 3 or third edition is a favorite of a lot of people, but I'm like, how in the world did RDM ever find anything challenging? Because I got a little note on this that said if I cast Epic Mage Armor, it went to 54.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Oh, this guy was ridiculous. Wes remembers casting.
I'm sitting here looking at my paladin.
Yeah, casting.
And...
I would cast Time Stop to begin with.
Oh gosh.
And you roll it, and you. I'm sure Pat, you know this, but epic level spell, you roll a d4, and that's how many rounds you stop time.
And you got that as a free action, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was the very first thing I did, and then
it was not. Jason beat the crap out of us, that one mage that had it. I said, "Why didn't you do that?" And you're like, "That's dirty pool." And I was like,
"Well, then I started doing it." So you got a whole bunch of horde type things, a bunch of kobolds, whatever like that, and then I roll that d4, and if you hit a 4, man, I don't even know at the time how many. I don't know, like fireball I had or something like that. I could cast 4 of them, and they would all detonate at the same time.
No,
That's
what was
broken.
funny was when you would go, "I'm going to cast fireball." I'm going to change that to an ice ball. I'm going to twin it, and then I'm going to maximize it. And I'm putting a 5-foot square around West
Well,
that it
that's
doesn't
true.
explode.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
time would come back in, and it's just like, where'd everybody go?
Meta Magic was another thing that third edition added.
Okay.
You could never do that in the first two.
I've fallen
the
off on that.
feats-
You talking about editing magic? Is that what you mean
Yeah.
by that? Okay.
Yeah, they were called the Meta Magic feats.
Gotcha. Jeez, that's
Spell,
crazy.
Spellcraft and spell shape and maximize and power and something
Third
else.
edition was in 3.5 were definitely for the min maxers.
They were broken editions. I will say that, but they were so much fun to play because like I had
And
a
the
ranger that was 16 levels as a ranger. He was 4 levels as a barbarian. 4 levels as a thief, 3 levels as a barbarian, and like a couple levels as a monk. And he fought two-handed with rapiers, and we figured out if you used weapon focus and weapon specialization on each hand, we got all the pluses, or we got all the negatives out, and I was basically getting 7 attacks around, and I had a movement of 40, which with boots of striding and springing at the time would double it, which made it 80. So it was just, I would go into battle just yelling Ginsu whirling blades of death.
Yeah.
And, there's 7 attacks, and I had spring attack, which would allow you to move half your movement, attack, and then disengage without taking an attack of opportunity. So I could move 40, attack, and move 40 back, and you couldn't hit me.
I mean, how do you challenge something like that when that's your guy, my guy, Terrence's guy?
you're one shotting Great Red Dragons.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. But I mean, this is years of playing though. So
Oh, yeah.
I guess I mean, it's not inconceivable. But
Yeah, but there was a lot of times Jason just wouldn't let things die because
That's
he's
the only
just
way
like,
you can.
it's like we fought for 2 rounds and it's
well,
dead.
all 3 of us on the show today have DM'd. And I don't know how many times in Tomb of Annihilation, Wes, you guys have killed the hell out of something, and I've kept it rolling just a little while to give you a bit of a freaking challenge. Because, I mean,
Well, what's funny is usually it freaks your brother out because he doesn't know what to do, and
well, and so, yeah,
because he has such horrible rolls.
yeah, true,
Bless
and,
his heart.
and he's very new to the game, which is kind of neat to see somebody that's very new. Of course, he's been playing with us for a couple of years, but I bought him a monsters manual for Christmas so that he could, because he could learn about some of the monsters. Because let's be real, I mean, you think about somebody that lives in this world, they would know what what a dragon is, and they'd know
Well, yeah,
what
there's certain
a
things you know.
bugbear is and things like that. But him being new to the game, he doesn't know. So
Well, it's funny because he'll be like, "Crap, what do I do?" And the rest of us have already planned everything out and have scattered and got in position. He's like, "What?" And we're like, "Well, it's fixing. I can't tell you because."
you don't know. But
It's real bad because we're really bad to metagame, and I know some people hate that, but our games are very fast and loose with a lot of the rules, and it's just us having fun. Which
Well,
I think a
and-
lot of people have forgotten about.
It's kind of, you can't help it at a certain point because I was just telling Chad, I think you hadn't jumped on yet, or maybe you had. August is my 30th year DMing with this group,
that's amazing, man. That's amazing.
or at least the core of the group. We've added people,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, you're
but-
kind of in the same boat that we're in. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's no secrets. There's no monster I can throw at these people that I've not thrown at them a dozen times. Talking about Trapper Keepers, Alan Miller has his folder that we started with in '91. He has 17 characters, and about 5 of them are from different systems, but 17 characters he's run in various games I've run.
Right. Jeez, that's cool, man.
I don't have that many, but I have quite a few that are in the.
And like I said,
paper.
one's a Dresden character, one's a vampire character, one's a Marvel superheroes character, but again, the vast majority are D&D.
But that's awesome because I mean I know like Chad and I that there's a very strong bond with these characters. Some
Oh,
would
yeah.
say that we are those characters. And I think that's one of the things that's fun about it is
In my Wednesday night game that I'd been running, that we ended, and we took a break and played a different system with a different DM. But we're about to start Tomb of Annihilation. But in that previous game, I dropped in Joe's character, where they found a dwarf with no memory, and when they finally get his memory back, they realize he's one of the original characters from '91.
That's neat.
See,
That's
I
cool.
thought
You're
about,
doing something similar, right, Wes?
Yeah, because I run a game for my wife, one of her friends, and a buddy of mine, and it was funny because I've got a paladin, an eldritch knight, and a thief, and I'm like, oh crap, we don't have a healer. It's like this is really not the way you guys should do a 3-man fire team.
No.
And so I throw NPCs in to support, not necessarily, because I have played with DMs that will throw characters in and they really want to play and they want their character to be at the forefront. And I try to make sure that this one stays in the back.
Right.
There's been times I've kind of had to, hey guys, why don't we do this? This is what the character is telling you. He's like, hey, why don't we try this? Because there's times they kind of hit a wall and they're like, because they're very inexperienced players.
Right.
I have been there too.
And it's funny because I was going through some books, and our friend Mike, who used to play with us, he had a very powerful cleric, and I had found his character sheet was folded up, tucked between some of the pages, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so the way the quest started for them was, I actually had Chad's character. He'd sent out this young mage to find this tome and bring it back to him. And of course, he needs help. They go and find it. The bad guys show up. They get transported to the other side of Faerun, and they're trying to make their way back. And so there's different random things that they've run into, and I've brought characters in. They don't know this, and I know my wife doesn't listen to the show, so I'll drop this little nugget. One of the characters that they have run into several times, Chad, do you remember when we played the dragons on? Oh shoot, I've gone blank now.
Council of Worms.
Council of Worms. Thank you, Barry.
Yes, very vaguely, but yes.
I had a character. His name was Silverwind. It's a silver dragon, and silver dragons like to take on humanoid forms. And so they have actually run into that character who, there's a whole backstory.
That's cool.
And he's kind of done like the Obi-Wan, Gandalf kind of thing, like suggested things, or
right.
Hey, just be careful going here, because and of course, when you tell them to be careful, they go, well, let's go find out what they what.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had that happen, Patrick. You say some little just stupid throw off detail, and the party fixates on that, and then you're like, okay, well, let's go with it. And that was kind of happened there, and so I keep bringing him in. They run into him on the road on their way back to Waterdeep. So there's fun little things. Like that.
I mean, that's neat that you can take other editions and fold it into what you're doing.
Well, and this was something I was going to ask you, Pat, DMing, because you've played with a group that has played for a long time and kind of knows your style and theirs. But have you brought things in from different editions that you like?
Oh, absolutely. Because again, I still play second, and this will be a good transition to move on from 3 to 4. One of the things they did in 4 that I really liked was ability score progression every 4th level.
Okay.
Where you can add a point every 4th level to anything, but you can't ever take it above 20.
Yeah.
Did they not do that in 3rd as well, though? But
If they did, I don't remember it.
I don't
I-
think they did.
I've
Okay,
literally
maybe not.
played third less than any other edition. So maybe I just stole it from third and didn't
Well,
realize
it's
it.
possible. I never played fourth, so that's
You're lucky. Fourth is garbage.
okay.
Yes,
All right.
it's a hot flaming mess.
It
was-
is the
That was during the
worst
time where
D&D
we
ever.
where we weren't playing or I wasn't playing. So, but so fourth is the worst ever. We're saying, all right.
fourth
is
is it. They literally completely changed almost every concept of the game, except for armor class and experience. Almost everything was different. You got at will powers, utility powers, and daily powers. Like as a wizard, you didn't memorize and learn spells. You had at will and daily spells.
Yeah, I don't. That doesn't sound fun. That
I
doesn't sound-
I played in one campaign with that Wednesday night group I was talking about.
right.
It was the most absolute. I was ready to never play D&D with anybody else but my group again after that.
Wow.
I was like, this is awful. Why would anyone think this was a good addition?
But Wes, did you play in fourth at all? Did you do any
Very, very little. I played enough to know that I didn't like it.
fourth? Okay.
It was just it changed for me. It changed too much stuff. I mean, there was a change from second to third, you
Right.
know, and I think the fact that they made the little booklet that kind of explained, you know, like, hey, if you want to migrate this character over from this edition to the new edition, and kind of explain like what changed, and it made sense. Fourth edition, we're just gonna change stuff.
So
No
but
reason,
then,
just
but
we're
then
just gonna change it.
but then we've moved to five.
Right. And here's where the difference when fourth edition happened. Fourth is when Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast.
Till all
They were
in
like,
one.
people play these online MMOs.
Right.
Let's make the game like that.
Okay.
It's awful. But fortunately, to give Hasbro credit, they know how to take feedback.
Right.
They're like, oh, this is crap. Let's research how to make this better. And we initially got D&D Beyond,
Right.
which was basically the play test for 5th edition.
Okay.
And they took everything people. I actually play tested 5th.
Did you? That's
Mm-hmm.
cool.
I actually as a player. There was a DM that was like, "You've played every edition. Please play test 5th with me." Okay. 5th edition is a callback. It is the best of all worlds and none of 4th edition. Now, especially now that I find out that the ability score progression started in 3rd. Because obviously you all have played 5th.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we're playing now. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, in a way, 5th is kind of superhero D&D.
Okay. All right. What
And
do you
I
mean by
mean that. I
I
mean
can
that in
see
a good.
that.
I mean that in a good way. Your characters, you know, in 2nd, you could play, and you can do it in 5th. But there was some modules that were just some real gritty ground level stuff. And another thing I like about 5th edition is the modules. But they're all basically evolving you into the heroes of the realms. Because we've played completely through the Tyranny of Dragons. Where at the end you had to stop Tiamat from coming into the world.
Oh yeah, isn't it? There's like three books to that, right?
But there's 2. There's Wrath of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat.
Okay.
And there's a 3rd, but it's actually just the 2 combined into
one.
one as an anniversary edition.
Yeah, I think
Out
we've
of the
stopped her
Abyss.
several times before, but you know,
Yeah. Out of the Abyss.
she was a good baddie.
Yeah. Out of the Abyss is your prisoners in the Underdark. The Archmage of Menzo Berenzon summons initially Demogorgon, which I'm sure they picked him because of Stranger Things.
Right.
But you eventually have to deal with all the major demon princes.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, and it's you go to Gondelgrim. You have to meet with Bruenor. It starts tying in some major characters.
But is
Of course,
that,
you got the
is that
water
kinda,
deep stuff. Go
well, I
ahead.
was gonna say, is that kind of like the way they used to do the novels
Yes,
in second and third edition, where they would elaborate and fill out the tapestry of the story?
this is, to me, the biggest tragedy of everything they've done is we don't get novels anymore. We still get Salvatore,
Yes.
but that's it. And the Weiss and Hickman lawsuits get settled, and we're going to get a new Dragonlance trilogy.
Now that's pretty cool. Now I saw you post some things about that the other day, and that's pretty neat though. That could be a step in the right direction.
But to me, that's been the biggest tragedy is we don't have. We'll call back the first and second edition.
Right.
There was the Avatar trilogy.
Yes.
It literally brings the storyline in the realms from first to second edition.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
one for third and there's one for fourth too. I just can't think of the names off the top. Third is Return of the Archmages.
Okay. Yeah.
Fourth is the Spell Plague. And there wasn't that for fifth.
But I'll tell you, when you get into fifth and or at least like some of the newer campaign setting books, I haven't really looked all the way through. But a couple years ago, Wes, isn't that when we started playing again, Tomb?
Yeah.
In a couple years. So I got to looking at the things that were available at the time, and I said I need to find the most challenging one because I had guys that had been playing a long time. And I need to find the most challenging one, and I wanted something because I didn't want to homebrew anything because I have very little DM experience at the time.
Time
yeah.
is the biggest thing when you
And
homebrew.
so I started looking through these, and I was very impressed with the stories that they're putting together in these standalone campaign books, especially Tomb of Annihilation. And I know, Pat, you're getting ready to run that thing, and Wes has been playing it for a couple years. Man, that's a really good story.
And it's going to freak
so
my
cool.
players out.
Dude, I'm telling you, they
we've
better
never
be.
played in the jungle before.
They better be freaking prepared because if they don't, it's tactics. I figured this out, man. If these guys hadn't have played the tactical game with this, they're dead. I mean, they're dead fast.
We've probably had 4, maybe 5 total party kill encounters that we have thus far successfully navigated.
Right. I think every character has had to make death saves at least
Nope.
once. You haven't?
Nope.
Well,
Uncanny Dodge, your favorite.
Well, we're playing tonight, so that shit'll change. but no.
Evasion.
Yeah, and
Suck it.
I mean, I know we've gone through all the editions and kind of skimmed on some stuff, but I thought we'd talk a little bit about what we're playing right now, and that we're still working on that. And I'm telling you, if anybody out there is looking for a 5th edition campaign to play with their folks, this is a good one.
It's my favorite of the books I've got so far, though I've just started looking over Rime of the Frost Maiden,
Okay.
and it's got a lot of potential too.
Yeah.
It's like Tomb in a lot of ways, but in a completely different way.
Right.
But the challenge level, Rime of the Frost Maiden is going to be tough.
Well, and you're playing. You're going to run Tomb with this group that you've been playing with for a long time,
Right, and I'm down converted to 2nd edition.
Okay. Wow, that's some math.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, but
That's why it took so long for me telling you I'm going to play it,
Right.
till we're actually about to play it.
I got you.
It
Well-
would be nice though, because I don't know if you use D&D Beyond, and I was really against D&D Beyond in the beginning of this, but it is kind of handy when you can pull it up on the computer and cross reference stuff
Right.
quickly. But how cool would it be if they had a system set up to where you could use D&D Beyond, but have it set up as 2nd or 3rd edition?
Oh, if it would convert.
Fantasy Grounds.
Okay, I don't. think
Fantasy
I-
Grounds
further for
supports 2nd edition.
No, Joe. Oh, is it kind of like is it a virtual tabletop?
It's a different Roll20, yes.
Okay.
Fantasy Grounds Virtual Tabletop is set to support second edition.
Oh, Chad.
It even has, I don't know what books it has, but it's got the virtual versions of the Player's Handbook, DMG, and Monstrous Manual.
I'm all in on 5th now, man. I can't convert back. Not right now.
When you said that, Patrick, that made me think of the library that we used to have.
Yes.
And I think
I'm
that
going to send you a picture of my library.
Please
to
do.
use
We'll
for
do.
this.
We'll post it on the. We'll use it as our thumbnail. And
I
stuff.
wish we
Because
had-
it's got books from every edition.
There we
except
go.
Fourth.
Except because
Except for
we don't want to go down
waste
that.
money. But
Well-
okay, now here's I'll save that question for later, Pat. I'll
Well, since we're talking about questions,
Ah!
let's go ahead and hit Pat for the second week in a row because we love his face so much with the Nerdy Old Men Rapid Fire question session.
I like
Dun,
rapid
dun,
fire
dun.
questioning.
Well, Wes, since you were inquisitive already today, sir, lay with it.
well,
That hard, huh?
Yes. The answer
okay,
is
moving
yes.
on.
Okay, all right, Pat, I'll go since Wes has stalled. His brain has gone into reboot. We'll go. Pat, classic NPCs, okay? And we've talked about some of them before. If you're a brand new adventurer living in that world, who would you want to serve as your mentor? And all the books and all of the modules that you've read through all the editions, who would it be?
That would be Kelvin, Archmage of Waterdeep.
There we go. All right. Cool. That's a good answer. See, this is a guy who's got all the knowledge. Wes, hit him.
I was going to ask him a favorite setting to play in.
Forgotten Realms. We will occasionally jump to another setting, but everything I've run for 30 years has basically been Forgotten Realms.
All right, I got a tough one for you. All of the non-homebrew modules, everything that's been produced by TSR Wizards of the Coast, or whatever the name has been at the time, what has been your favorite?
All around favorite, it's a second edition module called Nightmare Keep. It's a high level module. It's brutal. And I actually ran it for not my normal group that I've always run with, but for what most people consider my classic friends group, Derek, Eric, Mac, Anthony.
Right.
It was brutal. And they're also super experienced players because we all played together when Kevin was their DM.
Okay. All right.
Oh, Johnny.
But, man.
goes to the north.
North.
There were large armies gathering in the north all over the place. I think I
As
actually
far
owe
north
Kevin,
as you can go.
I think I actually owe Kevin $5 for even bringing that up.
Royalty
Kevin, you
rights.
are welcome, buddy.
Yes. Yeah, but Kevin, you owe us 5% of
Yeah.
that. So, all right, Wes, go ahead.
Wow, wait a minute. We need to redo that math. That's why Chad needed the calculator before.
I carry heavy things. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Patrick, if you get transported to Faerun in the Forgotten Realms, what character class are you playing, and what character class would you not want to go up against?
Well, I'm playing a bard because I'm
Perfect.
I'm a performer at heart.
Yep.
What
See it?
character class am I not playing? Probably a monk. Not that I don't like monks, but they die almost as easily as mages on the first level without magic missile.
Right. They don't even have that. I've got fists. Well, Miyagi-Do will save you today.
I've got very bad fists at that point.
All right. Here's an interesting one for you. You're going to develop an entire, tabletop role-playing game system, okay? But it has to be patterned after a 1980s toy franchise. What's it going to be?
Easiest one of all, He-Man.
There you, by God, that's correct. Of course, that's correct. That's what I was baiting him into. Wes, bring us home.
Well, I'm going to say, Patrick, what has been like your favorite encounter to play? Like out of all the adventures and things, whether it be a module or homebrew, what's been like your favorite all time encounter?
Okay, we were running the Tyranny of Dragons stuff, and I'd homebrewed some stuff into it. We also have a new member of the party. She had never played before, and she started with us. She's super shy, and she works with Joe, and he's like, "I've got to get you socialized. I've got to get you to where you're not afraid to talk to people. You're going to play D&D with us."
Right in the frying pan.
Wow,
I
throwing
use-
her in the
I-
deep end.
I use a critical hit system from if you Google Angel Fire critical hits.
Oh, I missed that. Oh,
I
we didn't
use
talk
that
about
critical hit system. Okay, well, they're about to have to get this thing where if they can get this particular artifact, they can enlist the elves to help them in the war against the Dragon Queen. They'll come from Evermead.
That's cool, man.
One of the characters has to go one-on-one with the Pit Fiend.
Oh gosh.
She's the fighter. Now, she can have any magic put on her, whatever. So the cleric and the mage bump her up the best they can. This is still going to be a brutal encounter. I literally don't expect her to live. She rolls a natural 20. Then she rolls the number that comes up with, because she's fighting with a hammer of thunderbolts.
Yes.
Boom.
She throws it, hits the Pit Fiend in the head, crushes its skull, one-shots it.
That's awesome.
And that's when the switch turned on for her, from where she was just kind of a background character to now she's very involved and actually speaks. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's neat, getting people hooked into it. Either a gameplay situation where something super awesome works out for them just like that, or the complete opposite. And what happened to my brother Jay when he was playing, which was like the worst thing that could happen to him, yet that got him hooked. And he was like, that ain't never going to happen again. Now it's happened again and again because that's what happens when you're low level and you're a fighter. But he got hooked, man. He just got hooked with it, and that's awesome. I mean, they come busting. It's Tomb of Annihilation, and you'll see it at one of the very beginnings. And they come busting out of a bar chasing a guy, and they're in an alley, and it's a gladiator, and they're all level 1s. And my brother's playing a fighter. What do fighters do? Well, they run up and get in the grill of the bad guy, right? And he runs up there, and dude cold cocks him. Bam! Straight down to 0 hit points. 1 hit. Done. And he's laying there bleeding out. But he was like, this is awesome. And this has got to be my thing. And that's really cool, man, to see somebody.
You forgot to mention how my thief had snuck around the alley behind them and,
we know.
and took the guy down, where he gave up. But, I'm just saying, the meat shield did his job.
I'll tell you what, doing my campaign.
What's that?
They run into a fight, and then Joe fireballs everybody.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
Hey, I don't care the size of the room. I said cast fireball. By God, that's what
it often turns into, Al, John, how many hit points do you all have? Boom.
Wow,
You'll probably survive
looking into
this.
a mirror here, Pat.
You'll be all right. Hang in there.
We have potions.
Hey, no, this was a great trip down our convoluted history of Dungeons and Dragons editions from 1 all the way to 5.
I'm reminding you.
Uh-oh. Patrick,
It's time for Pat to work out again.
It is.
He's worked out his brain and his mouth talking to us about the best game that's ever been created, and now he's going to work out his muscles so he
I
can
gotta
slam
say,
somebody.
now I gotta go work on the guns.
There you go. Because there is no guns in Dungeons and Dragons, and you'll never be able to convince me that they belong there.
Never.
Never.
Ever.
Ever.
I will dispute you that they do in Spelljammer.
Okay, well, I never played that.
Did anybody play Spelljammer?
Yes.
I didn't. Well, Pat's played them all. That's why we brought him on, because he's the expert at all of them. But I tell you
Pat,
what,
we gotta say thanks, man, for
Yeah.
jumping on with us, man. This was awesome.
I appreciate y'all having me again. It's always a lot of fun. I look forward to eventually hearing the episode that was
Yeah.
meant for today.
Yes, and we're going to keep that a little bit on the down low until we
Right.
get that, until we can make sure we can come back today. But due to some unfortunate coronavirus quarantine, we couldn't go and do what we had intended on doing today, but hopefully that's going to work out. But everybody out there that's listening to us, we really appreciate that. Continue to give us some feedback and let us know ideas that you have. I've gotten some really good ideas from our old friend Benji Spradlin. We're going to throw some of those in there and bring him in too, because those are some really cool ideas and I like those. So you can direct message us that, or just post something on one of our posts on Facebook or Instagram. And
You can go to the Buzzsprout page,
Yes.
nerdyoldmen.buzzsprout,
yes.
and we've got buttons that
Yes.
you can reach all of our social media.
Yep.
and
If you're new or you haven't liked everything that we do, go up there and just click through those suckers and like us and all that other good tech jargon, and join in there with us, man.
And
we
if you're in a
appreciate it.
position to help out, we do have a donation button. If
And
you
swag
got a few
for
bucks.
sale.
And
And swag for
Yep.
sale, yeah.
Yep.
Check out
Yep.
the Teespring store.
Yep. I just ordered a couple of things for me and my kid, my daughter, who loves to sport our T-shirts and stuff for the show, and so we're excited to get those in and see what those are all about. So, until next time, I'm gonna attempt to make Wes's character have to roll a death saves tonight.
Evasion and uncanny dodge. Yeehaw.